number of candidate countries and also our partners in the Eastern Partnership. And I think it was quite a successful project which helped to structure and launch a debate on European change also in Moldova. Of course, Eastern Partnership relations and neighborhoods have become quite challenging in recent years. I'm therefore extremely glad that the moment Moldova has a pro-European government. I very much hope that this is something which can last, and it's extremely important that it does. I'm not going to spend much time on the details of the concept of the sub-program which we are discussing here, technicalities, but I think it's extremely important to give the idea of having programs which support change and which support close relations between the EU and our partner countries. They need political support, and I think indeed this is something which we can do and help to do from the European Parliament. We can also help to do it in the EPP group. This is an important issue and has always been an important issue for us, and that's why I'm very happy to be here. We do have at the moment in Parliament a very busy schedule, partly because we are getting ready to have hearings on the nominees for future members of the European Commission. And of course, European Commission is also an important actor when it comes to deciding on money issues, not just within the European Union, but also with respect to our neighbors. When we had a discussion 5 years ago in European politics about the Juncker Commission, of course one of the adjectives you heard was that this is the Commission of the last chance. Now of course we are discussing the next Commission, so indeed we survived the last chance. And I think this Commission is the Commission which clearly in terms of its agenda, also the proposed composition, does suggest that it's a Commission which is very much keen to tackle some of the new existential challenges which we face in Europe, but even beyond European borders. And these cover climate crisis, climate deal. They also cover questions having to do with the whole digital revolution, and they also cover issues having to do with functioning rule of law inside the European Union, but also beyond. And this has to do with the growing fragility of the whole international system, whereby rule of law is something which is constantly undermined, and we feel it very strongly in the neighborhood. I also feel that it's important that the next Commission is not just reflective on the EU's internal problem, but we have to be very much engaged in our active external relations. I think this is also something which we need to do, we need to think of, and we need to support. And it's therefore very important that the Commission is very not only active, but comes up with specific proposals which give European perspective to our neighbors. Of course, we have the whole enlargement discussion, but we also have the whole discussion of how we can best engage with the neighborhood actively. The Eastern Partnership is something which has to stay on the radar screen of the next European Commission. Politically, but also in financial terms. And this is something which is existential for change in a place like Moldova. So I'm very happy to support this, but I think we also have to be frank in terms of where we are and what the opportunities will be and how we can best move to realize the ambition, perhaps a very specific ambition of this concept, which is to help finance individual projects and really kind of bring the European Union to the people in very specific project-based initiatives. I think it's therefore important to think about the larger scheme of things, how we can best realize this. In my view, this is about the bigger support for Eastern Partnership. It's also about the bigger commitment to regional cooperation. This is not just a Moldovan issue, it's an issue which concerns Ukraine, which concerns Georgia. You know, in the, I shouldn't say this, but in the better days of the Eastern Partnership, of course, regional cooperation between these three countries, the front runners of the Eastern Partnership, was seen as the key to change, the key to progress, and the key to realizing the European perspective in a more tangible way for these important neighbors of the European Union. So I think in thinking about this, it's important to think about the regional cooperation. By the way, this is something which has always in the past helped those countries which had applied for EU membership, including my own country in the early part of the last decade, and has helped to overcome cross-border difficulties, issues which perhaps cannot be resolved individually by a single country, by a single member state, and that's why I find this as a very important issue. I also think that when we talk about cohesion, it's not just about money, it's not just about roads, it's about the new challenges which we have, of course, the climate change, the digital challenges, and the rule of law challenges which we all face. And these have to do with the cohesion of the society. I think one of the big threats we face in our neighborhood, and we very much feel it in Moldova as well, is the hybrid warfare, which we are facing in terms of the Russian influence, but also other actors who are coming to play an increasingly important role in the neighborhood of the European Union. I think it's extremely important that the European Union, this Parliament, gets fully engaged in our neighborhood, supports the pro-European forces and the change there, and supports it on the ground with the people. So I think the cohesion should have not just the financial meaning, but also the social meaning. And in that sense, as much as it's important to help finance important projects, I think it's important to also help finance perhaps public debates, discussions, engagement with the people to explain why the European perspective is indeed the better way